Hey, so you found the link?
I'm gonna just move on.
No, we Jennifer and I were just talking about this for a while. We were
For a
gonna
while,
leave.
how long has she been on?
I mean, probably 20, 30 minutes. Just
Get
been.
out of here, you piece of crap. Hi, Jen.
She did say she doesn't know what we're doing today, so I thought that was
I
I
interesting.
have
will
no
say
idea.
this, and it's very soon. I mean, you're gonna become like somebody that we invite to Thanksgiving feast. I mean, you're becoming.
I'm excited. I need another place to go. I have so many because I'm the single person, who doesn't cook. So I always have
Oh,
to,
you're welcome at our
find a place.
table anytime. Then.
Okay, and my grad school roommate had me last time. So that was
Okay.
lovely. I was the That's actually not accurate, but let's just say this. I was almost the least educated person at the table. I mean, I'm talking like PhDs in oceanography, PhDs in electrical
Casey's
engineering,
that at every
PhDs in,
Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and
I'm fully accustomed to that. So
I left early. I was like, I can't process. I can't
Wow.
process what's going on here. I mean, it was literally, and they were all 30. They were like the children, her children's. Anyway, it was,
so
but they both,
what I'm hearing is that you joined us to feel really smart and educated and intellectual. That is
yes,
what I'm hearing.
yeah, it was
That's
fascinating. I was like,
actually
I guess I've become an introvert. Bye, everybody. And they were like, bye. I was like, it's been 3 hours. I
It's
can
good to
only
know
sit
that
here
in
so
our
long.
presence you feel comfortable and.
I kind of I think I put you in my newsletter without naming who you were. I think I did. I talked about two
I
principles.
wondered if it was us that you were
It was.
referencing as I read through that. And
Thank you
I was,
for, thank you for
yeah.
actually reading it, Casey.
Brian's just out for himself. I'm really trying to look out for everyone.
Trying to
So
I
move
think we
on.
should get
No,
started. That's what I think. I think we have things to do. We got to get started.
well,
I
we
got
better
the
go.
timer
Okay.
ready to go.
So do I. Okay, so Jen, here's what we are going to do. We have Casey's going to start us off this time. So what we try and do is we bring a problem to the table and we just
Mm.
say we've got 20 minutes. We've got to solve it.
Oh, okay.
And so we just call them a shorts, and it's just stuff that like it can't be theoretical. Because it has to be something that's boots on the ground. Like I think mine two episodes ago was I had a professional development that afternoon, and I had a concept that Casey and I have been wrestling with, and I could not make it tangible. And so
Ooh,
Casey and I call each other all the time, and so we just said, why don't I just record these so people can hear us kind of work through problems in real time.
that's great.
And then last one Casey brought to the table was when your best interventions don't work. On that 2%, 5% of students that they don't work, we tend to throw out everything because it's not working with this kid rather than saying, no, the things that you're doing still work. You just need to modify it slightly for this maybe
For this kid,
5% of
right?
students.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so here's my topic. Casey, you ready to press? You want to press it right after I bring the topic and then
Yeah.
press
As soon as you
start?
Yep, we got it.
So Casey kind of introduced it in our last episode, and it was more of like, I think the way we phrased it in that episode was emotions, right? If you're the leader in the room,
Hmm.
and your emotions, you can't be emotional. You are the one that has to be somewhat stoic, and at times is frustrating for me, especially because that's a huge part of being human. But it's also just a huge part of who I am is just being an emotional person. Then it doesn't mean loss of control, but just being emotional. The word that kind of kept coming back to mind and thinking about it and how to frame this is transparent or being authentic.
Mm.
And so my question is, so here's the topic. What framework can we have for leaders? And so I'm talking about teachers to students, principals to teachers, superintendents to the district. What frameworks can we have where we're allowed to be transparent in who we are and the identities that we bring to the conversation, that also safeguard the leader and keep the audience or the people that they lead safe. And so my context would be leaders who are not transparent are oftentimes seen as cold, and there's a disconnect. They don't have relationships with the people that they lead. If they're too emotional or too transparent, that can become a wedge in relationships, or it can become a weapon that is used against the leader.
Mm.
And so wanting to put in some tangible safeguards for people who lead that they are allowed to be human and transparent, but also safe for themselves and for others. So, Casey, start the clock. Jen, if you can solve it in 10 minutes, that'd be fantastic.
Thank you for starting the clock. Wow.
And this is the conversation. So, Casey, we're all just brainstorming
So-
together. Let's come up with some.
Okay. So I guess I'm one of those people that has questions to ask.
Sure.
So I guess and this is so interesting. I don't have images, like I'm not an Insta person as much as I am a blog person. So my questions are always like, how important is this for me that I share this emotion? How important is this for them? Is this, if I speak up and say something that's very transparent, is that professionally sound? Is it will it be emotionally damaging? I mean, at least I'm asking myself that kind of stuff. I also want to know, and I talk about this in the stretching book, if I bring this to the group in the way that's kind of over the top, am I not just emotionally polluting the situation, or am I providing context? Do you know what I mean? Like there's like this is where my head is at the moment. I'm not feeling that I'm, sort of, so I'm just letting you know that I'm a little over the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So you
there's
use the
some
word
questions.
polluting. I think sometimes the word that comes to my mind with emotions, um, the word just escaped me, but it's manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
When you're
Yep.
emotional, you can manipulate people. And so here's some context, and let's bring this down to real earth. So I have a daughter who was recently diagnosed with a brain tumor, and it's a very severe, serious thing. I have chosen, as best that I can, to be very quiet about it with my staff. And my assistant principal was the one who kind of said, "You kind of need to tell people what's going on in your world." And every time I talk about it with my staff, like I am right now, I get teary eyed and I get very emotional. And I don't like that. What I love about it is it makes me human with my staff, and it gives them liberty to have hard
Mm-hmm.
moments in life and be transparent with us. We want to live life together. What I don't like about it, though, is it has the unintentional manipulation that if I'm having a hard week, people don't bring hard things to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you got a lot going on, so I didn't want to talk to you. No, 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 no.
Right.
This is still my job.
Yeah.
I'm still here. So still bring it to you. In the worst case scenario, I had somebody use it against me, in that I got frustrated with the way they were treating another individual, and I called them on it, and I got emotional. My emotions showed. And they were like, I just think with your daughter, you have a lot going on, and so you're not thinking clearly. And I got very upset with that. Right. And so that's the rub of, right. Like, so I can manipulate my staff in that they give me too much grace, maybe, and don't bring things to my table. Or now I've been emotional and transparent. Now it's being used against me in that, well, Brian just has too much on his table and he can't think
Mm-hmm.
rationally. So that's
That's
that's that's a very maybe tangible example that I want to safeguard everybody. Casey, I'm gonna interrupt you, Jen. Casey, what do you think so far?
Oh, Jen, do you have a thought you want to share first right away? I don't
You're
want to cut
so
that off.
kind, Casey. It
Gosh,
was
dang it,
about this
Casey.
idea of care and accountability. Care and accountability. There's a polarity there that I always say, like people are like, oh, there's too much going on for that individual. I can't bring this to them. They're over tipping on the care side. They're not on the accountability side. We could change that to care and performance, or care and responsibility. I I also, having been through some hard stuff in the last year, understand that people who are going through hard stuff do need grace, but also can hold and want to hold
Yeah.
their life, right? They are still that person, and so I wouldn't feel uncomfortable bringing you something. I would say, your edges, and I'm going to tell you this anyways, and you need to decide. Like, I just trust people who have and are going through tough things. I just do. But that care and responsibility piece is an interesting question. or
Okay.
polarity for me to think about. Anyway, now Casey, thank you.
Yeah, well, so it brings to mind a couple of things. So one is this really bizarre story I remember a teacher sharing when I was a kid, but I have never forgotten. But it seemed weird and out of place, and it was tied to this kind of emotional component, which was she shared that she had been uh like sort of taken into a cult. And then and this was like sixth grade or something. And then she warned us about the dangers of cults and how they worked. And as a sixth grader, I was a little traumatized by it. I'm like, "Oh, man." But on the other hand, I've never forgotten it, and it's probably really good advice. Ah, so that's one
To
thing that
her point, you've actually never joined a cult since then. So,
I mean, that is fair. Maybe it worked.
so
So
I think that's a part of it too. So when we think about the teacher component,
Mhm.
you're dealing with adolescent
Different.
minds,
Yeah,
especially if they're really young. And so then we all want to share stories. And I love the idea of teachers being transparent with their students and saying, I'm having a rough week, or I just want you to know my dog passed away. So I'm emotional. Like that transparency is good, but also understanding what can your audience hold?
that's
What,
right.
what, right? What weight can they carry of the teacher's
Beautiful.
emotions?
Right. I think and there's a book called Relating to Adolescence that speaks to that. That is so beautiful. The weight that somebody can hold. Um, I would suggest, and I know that Casey's no longer in a cult, but that was probably a little too much information, maybe from their end. But I understand that they didn't describe the whole thing or whatever, but there's just that moment where how much can a child hear about adult stuff? Uh, That that piece, I mean, that's a whole other kind of conversation about what should teachers say or not say to people like, "Oh, my medication is not working today. I've been on medication for the last 20 years for I've got people that have lost their jobs, not gotten tenure because they overshare. No, but they really want to listen. No, they don't. I think that as Brian is really navigating, and you will continue to navigate this part of your journey, the question really is asking people to keep responsibilities on you, that you are there, you want to participate as a whole human being. And there will be moments when you are kind of overwhelmed with some personal stuff, and you'll be able to share that at that moment. I think it's a, I think it's a, yeah, it's about care and responsibility and being able to manage both of them. The manipulation piece has always bothered me. People are so uncomfortable about tears. And I remember having an emotion about something, and somebody goes, "Are you doing that just to make us get off your case? Is
Yeah.
that why you're doing it?" And I remember getting so like viciously angry. I go, My tears are never to manipulate. My tears are to show my care, my passion for this, my commitment to this. That has nothing to do with it." And so I worked on holding my energy and trying not to tear up. I can share, possibly not on this call, but a way to support you and not crying as much if you'd like to hear.
Well, is it involved squeezing
Yes.
my butt cheeks?
Yes. And you
Trying it.
said you never want to use that, Brian. And I'm telling you that it might work.
It might work. Okay, so here's what I would like to do. Casey, I think we're at about the 10-minute mark.
we are
And I
halfway
think
there.
that
Yeah.
obviously when Casey and I get together, we try and tackle very complicated and complex issues. But I would like to give some sort of just safeguards to anybody who's in a position of leadership that they can exercise, or at least questions they can ask themselves to work through of like, is this the appropriate time? Is this the appropriate audience? Those kinds of things. Will this benefit the cause?
I'm getting a book.
Because sometimes I am of the belief that even just being emotional and sharing hardships, and I try to intentionally share stories with my family and as being a father with
Hmm.
my staff, if nothing else, to let them know that, like, if when I ask you to come in my office and share some of the hardships of life, and we want to carry those burdens with you, I also have to do that. Right? You have to lead in that way. So, what are some things that we can, or some safeguards, questions, whatever it might be? I see the finger, Casey. What do you
Yep.
got?
Yeah,
Well,
Casey.
can I just last time I let you speak, but I want to jump in here quickly because I think there's two versions of a story. Brian's talking about his current experiences.
Mm-hmm.
My teacher was talking about her past experiences. And so let me share an example of me and something I shared recently that was based on past experiences. And I hesitated because I didn't want to be like that teacher who was sharing her cult experience. But we were talking about behaviors, and I'll try to tell this story quickly, Brian, so we can get to some answers. But we were talking about behaviors, and we were talking about we have to hold kids accountable, but we can't. Oh, Brian left us. Oh, he's back. Okay. Ooh. Oh, he's gone again. Well, Brian knows this
Perhaps.
story.
Okay, good. I'm here.
So I'll just share it very quickly with you. And there you go. He's bouncing back in. Uh,
Don't know
so
what happened.
I didn't stop the timer, so we're going to have to be extra fast now. I was talking to my staff about some of the reasons that punishment don't work is because there are kids that suffer more at home than any punishment we can offer at school. And it just doesn't make sense. And so I talked about my experiences with poverty and homelessness and abuse. And I was very nervous to do it. It is a story I have not shared. I didn't share that story with anybody before I was 40, but I needed them to understand that these are real things. And I didn't want to share a story about a kid because it's not my story to tell. But I was nervous, to Brian's point, about whether or not that was manipulation. But I felt like it was a necessary truth for people to understand. We are dealing with all kinds of things at school. And so I felt okay telling the story. But if, as we're talking about some tangible guidelines, what would make that story okay versus not sharing the cult story? It might be the audience. It might be, right? So those
Yep.
are some of the things I'm thinking about.
That's a great question of what's the moment. I speak a lot to that identity question of which parts of my identity are going to drive how I bring this to people, my history, my past, and is this important at this moment for this other person to learn about me? So that they can negotiate our relationship in this moment better. The ACE indicators, as you were sort of mentioning, the adverse childhood experiences piece, is something that can be weaponized, can be manipulation, and it can be very, very, very important to share. So I want to acknowledge that in that moment, I think was a very helpful thing for people to hear about. To me, like, what are the stakes? Is this an important thing? Will this change how we work together? Will it change how the children are going to be taught? Will it change? Can this person hear it now? I mean, I could put together a number of questions, actually. That'd be a really interesting thing for me to do.
Okay, so as you're
Yeah.
chatting, something came to mind. Casey and I have the 6+1 types of engagement.
Okay.
And the question we keep asking ourselves and we ask our audience when presenting it is, does your activity bring them closer to understanding the content?
Yes.
Right. So does this engagement, physical, emotional, social, whatever it might be, does it bring them closer to the content? And I think that same question can be asked with leaders to their audience. Is this bringing them closer to understanding the maybe content, but really now it's gonna be a little bit more broad of purpose, right? So if Casey's telling stories, or if I'm telling stories to entertain my staff, and it's not bringing them closer to the purpose of why we're here and the goal of the year, then maybe it can be set aside. If the goal of telling that story is to gain relationships with your staff, to let them see who you are, like in Casey's point, I need you to understand where I'm coming from, so that when I ask you to react to students this way, I'm
Yeah.
coming at it
Yes.
from a very purposeful and personal connection. That helps them understand that when he says, guys, get rid of punishments, I'm telling you, there are some kids who have lived life harsher than anything that you can ever do. That helps him achieve his purpose. And so maybe
Mhm.
that's just one of the key questions is, does this provide access to the purpose? And if it's
Beautiful.
not providing access to the purpose, then get rid of it. And the purpose can be academic to school, but also building relationships, culture, whatever it might be.
I think that's beautiful. Yeah. And yeah, we entertaining? Are we doing it that way? Yeah. I think
Is
that's
this
And
is this is this making me look good as the purpose of telling this story so that you like me more? Casey and I get stuck in that circle all the time,
sure.
right?
No,
Like,
I think that's true. No, I don't
Am I
think.
telling this story because I want you to think I'm an awesome principal, awesome teacher? Or am I telling you this story because I really want you to be aware of there's cults out there and they're pretty seductive?
And there are people who have experienced abuse and traumatic childhoods, and there are people who are going through things. I think that your conversation and where you share brings perspective to people. They're like this, and you're like, let me explore, let me share with you more than is in your mind. And I think that if you do it with that intent and purpose, and not to entertain and not to manipulate and not to over dramatize and not to weaponize. I even think those questions that's really helpful stuff. I recall that I could also then go to people once people shared stuff like that, and because they had been through something and I was better able. So that sharing helped me understand them more. I've got a
I
lot
will.
of.
Can
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
affirm that? Because when I shared about my daughter, this is about a year or so ago,
Somebody,
it was obviously very difficult. It was very, very new then.
yeah, and
Um, but I had about 3 or 4 staff members come to my office, um, just to share their own harsh stories. And so it became a beautiful connection, an awful, beautiful connection,
yes, correct.
with my staff. And so I do think that that can be, I think it's needed. I think leaders need to be brave in sharing harsh personal stories. I guess I just am always fearful. So give me a safeguard,
Hmm.
if we can, in the next 2 minutes that protects the leaders of when you share these things, you are opening up. And this is how you build relationships is you're vulnerable and you are gonna feel some arrows. But what is a if we're saying the question for your staff is, will give them access to the purpose, what is the safeguard that we can ask ourselves in the mirror of, okay, but is it worth it?
I want to emphasize what Jen said earlier, which is, can your audience handle this information? I think that's a vitally important question, and that's the one that I think
And not just
my
handle emotion,
sixth.
but handle it and how they treat you.
Sure.
Correct. Wish I had an answer for you, my friend. I don't. I mean, I think I would have to go through. I mean, the idea you are telling people I am a human. You also want them to treat you like a professional. To that end, please continue to come to me for professional and academic things. Please understand I'm sharing this because I think it's an important part of my work as a bigger piece of work that we're humans on this planet. But I don't know. I would just keep encouraging them to come to you. Like the safeguard is, please come to me if there's a professional concern. If something is physically unsafe, emotionally damaging, or academically not right here, I want to know about it. And I'm still going through this. We can do big things, hard things. So do both. So
And I want
just,
to affirm that piece too. Yeah, I'm going to affirm that piece too because it was a little strange in a recent presentation to my staff. It was the first time that I had shared this with the whole group, and after I shared some stuff, and I'm like, this is why punishments aren't going to work, and I went through this like big emotional thing, and they could see I was emotional as well, and then I paused, and it was just silence. People had no idea what to do. And so I had to say, guys, I'm okay now. It wasn't about me. You guys can talk to me the same. We can still do the same work. I just need you to know kids are going through things. So I did have to go through that process with the staff and say, hey, but we're still here. We're still professional. We're still doing the work, and I'm just fine. So let's still do the work.
amen. That's exactly what, yeah, use that. Do that. Just channel Casey, Brian. Channel Casey.
Jen,
He's not
you
going to want
are
to hear that.
yeah, I think
I
you're no
didn't
longer
just,
invited to Thanksgiving. I'm
I
not
know,
taking
I
no.
just said that. I said that just to bug you. I think that when people acknowledge they've been through AA, that they've dealt with hard stuff, it to me elevates their capacity and their resilience and their courage and their bravery. And like a much bigger connection to come to them because I know
Yeah.
that they're not going to crumble.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna press pause because I know we're wrapping up. I want to
Time's
give
up.
maybe one caveat of warning. Uh, And to me, I want to say if the purpose is for the people, right? It's for the people you serve. Casey's sharing his stories because he wants to help give guidance and understanding. We all know the stories of teachers who use that platform to get rid of all their emotional baggage, right?
Yes,
Like
that's
they use it as like a therapy session with their students.
don't do
And
it.
so again, I want to say if the purpose is to serve you, stop telling the story. If the purpose is to serve your audience, be brave and tell the story.
Beautiful. And read
So
Relating to Adolescence by Sarah Eva
relating to
Porter.
adolescence.
Relating to Adolescence was the most pivotal book that I learned about exactly what you're saying. And there were 7 ways to be an adult. And
I don't want to read that now. I'm going to figure out I'm
well,
not an adult.
well, you are. I know. That's a whole other thing that we could talk about at some point of we do not think that we're adults. I was like, dang, I'm 58. I don't know what I'm doing. And the answer is adulting doesn't actually mean you know what you're doing. It means that you're asking exactly the kind of questions that you two guys are asking.
We got it,
I mean,
Casey.
We did it. We
We
figured
did
it
it.
out.
All right. Hey,
boom.
I got to go. You got to go. Schurtz, our first guest. And we knew you would. Jennifer Abrams, thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you.
us. We appreciate you.
See you
Bye,
guys.
guys.
See ya.
See you.
See ya. Ciao. Thanks. Thanks.